A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Jane.
Before we get on to the good and the positive and what we're doing right, 62 billion in irregular expenditure. How do we even get to that sort of figure?
I think that happens when leadership do not take control of their organizations and ensure that things happen according to the way they should be happening. In the state sector, it's prescribed on how you must do things, and if you override that authority or you abuse your authority, then it becomes an issue, and you would have matters arising like we have at the moment.
And I guess when those numbers come out, other than the shock, the horror and the awe, nothing's going to be done, is it, from an audit point of view? All you can do is expose what is happening.
Well, it's two different exposures that you do get. The external audit, which is the Auditor General. Obviously, he's got more teeth than the internal auditors, because they report into the business and they report to the leadership. So we've had a number of instances where heads of audit have been suspended for a year, 2 years, because they raised issues and it wasn't convenient for management to have those issues raised. So it's a different ballgame for internal auditors, and a very tough situation to be in when you're pushing against the leadership of the organisation.
I can imagine. So that internal auditing, I guess, is just for the records to say that they have done it. Right. Who is doing it well?
Who's doing it well? I think there are a number of areas in the state where it is being done well. Sometimes we don't see it. I think in the private sector, if we look at the banking sector, and remember this survey is about heads of internal audit responding, the banking sector shows a significant level higher than any other sector in South Africa. They sit at about a level of 4, very, very high. So I think their response and their systems and the way they're governed and the way they have to compete internationally create the environment where you either compete or you don't exist. So
right.
And that makes a difference.
The impact of not doing it well, I mean, obviously, it's always the poorest of the poor who suffer the most.
That's correct. And it's very difficult to put it out into the public space all the time. So if somebody is misusing funds or misappropriating funds, it doesn't go into the right places. Sometimes it's used for other purposes and not what it was allocated for. So in the state sector, very difficult to do. Private sector hasn't done as well as we normally would expect it to do, with a couple of corporate scandals that it's had. But I also think we focus a lot on the negative side, and we don't look at what has been done right. If you look at South African news, it's always about what is wrong. There are areas where there's significant improvement and things are going right in the country.
And the Corporate Governance Index, tell us what it tells us.
It tells us that we've been in a state of decline for about 7 years, moving up and down slightly. I don't think the move this year is significant. Hopefully, if we look at the timing of the research, it ends around about end of June. Hopefully, that's an indication that there's a turn coming, and that there's sign of hope from the internal audit point of view that things are actually changing in the leadership structures and accountabilities starting to function effectively in the country. And if I was looking forward, I would say I would like to see a significant improvement by next year, or even another small improvement would be great.
Yes, as long as we keep improving. I guess it's all about ethics, isn't it? I mean, that discussion needs to be put out there.
I think the discussion about ethics needs to go in a much wider forum in South Africa, because we have different ethical values amongst the different cultures. We have different ethical values when you're dealing in international business as well. So it's finding the right way of doing things and having those discussions. And I don't think we have a robust enough debate about ethics and the difference between ethics in the various cultures within this country as well.
Tell us, you touched on it briefly, but the report that you're releasing today.
It looks at a number of dimensions. Leadership, and there's 7 dimensions, and if I can have a look quickly, I'll go back to it. The seven dimensions that we do look at are I've just misplaced. Sorry.
It's okay. Happens to all of us.
The 7 dimensions are compliance, it's leadership, operational risk, internal, external, and internal risk. It's the performance of the organization. So if we were looking at the integrated reporting framework, we would look at how the organization performs, and that is a critical area which looks at all the aspects within that. So we look at ethics, we've looked at compliance, leadership, operational risk, and external risk, and assurance, and the performance of organizations. And each of those dimensions have a look at a different aspect of how the organization is performing and where the weaknesses are. I think one of the key issues that have come out for me is that organizations do not seem to be using their human capital optimally. It's one of the weaker areas. And the fact that it's not used optimally means that the leadership is perhaps not thinking in an integrated fashion about how they need to use their resources effectively and how they can use them more efficiently in cross purposes.
Interesting report, and let's hope people read it and are guided to, as you say, improvements for next year. Charles, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.